Yo, what's up, creepers? And Geekers Christy, Atari Creep. How's everyone doing today? Just got home from school. I'm kicking back with a soda pop and my guitar. And I just watched a video by Brian's Man Cave. And it was a pretty interesting video. He was just basically asking, what does Nintendo mean to you? And he went through the history of the consoles. And then came back to the NES, and just basically spoke upon, what it meant to him. And it took me a few seconds to really come up with a decent idea. And I thought it was decent enough to at least get on here for a few minutes anyway, and discuss it, because I always pick on Nintendo. Ow, I just almost fell. I pick on Nintendo a lot, and a lot of people seem to think I hate Nintendo. And I really don't. And it's interesting because if I were to just sum up Nintendo in one word when it comes to just like gaming, I guess, I don't consider myself a gamer. But if you want to do that, as far as a gamer is concerned, the one word that would come up is bridge. It was a nice little bridge between my Atari and my Genesis, which I feel was a more natural step. So to go back quite a bit, how I acquired my NES, it was, maybe 2 years after it had come out. It was probably around 87, 86, one of those Christmases. I had a buddy named Jared whose parents were split up. And he tended to get like two of everything. And He got two Nintendos. He got the one with Rob and all that, and then he got one that was just like, I think it was just called like an action set. It was the console, the plugs, and your controllers, and that's it. That's all it was. And I didn't know he was going to do this, but he looked at his mom and said, and dad, and was like, I got two of these. Can I give one to Chris for Christmas? And they both looked at each other, and the dad's like, yeah, go right ahead. The mom was nice too. She loved me. To this day, I think. I got a really, really fun Nightmare on Elm Street 3 story having to do with that kid's mom. I talk about it all the time, so if you've been around, you're probably pretty savvy to it already. But long story short, that's how I acquired mine. I had to go out and get my own games. I only had like 5 or 6 of them. I know I had Kung Fu, I had the Mario Duck Hunt, I had Karate Champ, Dr. Mario, and there was one other I can't think of. But I know I had like 5 or 6, as they called them back then, tapes. I hated that then. I hate it now. And, a lot of people kind of jumped over from their Atari and television and or ColecoVision. And I didn't. I got the thing, I brought it home. Of course, it took me a few weeks before I even got to fire it up because I didn't have any games. But I would go rent them now and then, but I never really was that guy. My friend would rent games all the time, and I would just benefit from that. So maybe that was part of the reason. Bridge. So I started off with an Atari, obviously. It was a Sears Telly Games. And I mentioned my other buddy all the time. His father had some scratch, so this kid had a ton of consoles. He had 2 Atari 2600s. He had a Vader and a 6-switch Woodrow. He had a ColecoVision, and then he had a separate Atom system. Plus, he had the Master System. And I guess maybe because I played the Master System a lot longer, and a whole bunch before I even got an NES in my hands, I kind of just fell in love with that aesthetic. And that's why I don't think I ever gravitated towards Nintendo as much. Don't get me wrong, I do still believe it's the king of the retro consoles. They most certainly put their footprint in the sand, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. But having one wasn't like, I don't look back at it as like a total nostalgic thing. I mean, of course it is nostalgic. I remember the times me and my friends would play ice hockey or even Blades of Steel. Ching! Love that game. Tecmo Bowl, we played a lot of that until the wee hours in the morning. But I don't have the same memories as I do, or the feelings that I do, like, say, an Atari game or the Master System. And then my next personal console, which was the Genesis. I just, maybe because I gravitated towards the Master System a little more. I don't know. I always looked not down on the NES, but like what most people would think the Master System was if you knew what it was at the time. That's how I looked at the NES. The Master System was the one to go to. And it wasn't from any advertising, because I'll be honest with you, I don't remember the Master System ever being advertised. The only reason back then I knew it existed is because my buddy Gerbil had one. So, I don't know. And I just said that it was a nickname he didn't like. But I don't want to put his real name out there. So I did have an NES, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. My mom eventually took it over, and that's when we got Dr. Mario. She bought that shit. I had Tetris. I also had Tetris. But yeah, I mean, Nintendo to me isn't as revered as it is in most circles within our groups, but, you know, we all got that thing. There's a dude making 31 flavors for a reason. And I will always champion Nintendo for who they are and what they became, especially dodging a bullet like Atari. Because Atari was legit. And people argue with me all the time about this, but it's true. They were going to just use the NES to gain a few bucks to get their shit out, and then they were just going to trash the NES. It wasn't called that then, but you know what I'm talking about. The Famicom American version. And if you don't know what that's all about, just look up Atari Nintendo or Atari NES. Nintendo reached out to Atari to get the market here because they didn't think they were going to be able to because of the crash and all that crap. But either way, that's what Nintendo means to me, Brian. It was a bridge between, I guess, the Master System and the Genesis. My natural progression in gaming, whereas a lot of my friends went from the Atari to the NES, and then from the NES to Super NES. And I remember seeing the Super NES in Super Star Wars and being totally enamored by it, but I never did like how small that controller was, even back then. Maybe that's what it was all about. I could say the same for the Master System controller, and it was much more mushy, but I had a lot more background with it, if you will. So, there you go. If anyone else wants to chime in, tag Brian. Go check his video out. That's why I didn't tell you how he felt. If I remember correctly, I'll put it down below so you can check it out and understand what it is I'm even fucking talking about. And that's it, guys. Wherever in the world you are, I hope you're doing well. And until next time, take care. Keep it real. I never get ready to do this on time, right? And bye-bye.